welcome to Alan's Day. Guess what we're doing today? Sort of the same old, going out to the garage and fixing stuff. When you live on a farm, there's always something broken. And well, we got a broken John Deere. My lovely wife Jean went to the John Deere dealer today and picked up some John Deere parts. And I'll show you where they go. I didn't take any video of me taking it apart, but you're going to get to see me put it back together today. And there it is. We've got a wheel seal that was leaking, and took it apart, and there was a bunch of broken parts in there too. Wasn't good, but it wasn't too bad either. When Gene went and got the parts for the seal, the bearing, and the gasket, it was only $51, which surprised me. I thought John Deere was just really going to stick it to us. So we got the OEM parts, probably cheaper than what we could have found them online. So I'll show you what I got to do to get this thing put back together. So here's what we got for parts that we got to refurbish. This is the outside assembly that bolts onto the tractor over there. This is the seal that went bad. Here's the replacement seal for this tractor. It's a 588 John Deere, and the reason the seal went out is this bearing blew apart, and there's a bunch of parts and pieces that are still inside the tractor there that I got to find. I got to find the ball bearings, or count to make sure we didn't lose any of those, and get some brake clean and clean everything out. The only problem is I don't have any brake clean. Looks like a road trip over to AutoZone to pick up some brake clean. So I'll be back in a little bit, and we'll get this cleaned up, and we'll get this bearing pressed out and the seal pressed out, and get new ones in there, get it cleaned up, put it back together. Pretty straightforward, easy night tonight. I like it. I made it out of AutoZone. The oil and the brake cleaner costed more than the damn parts did, but gotta have them. Let's get back and put it together. Got a brake cleaner. Lucked out. It was on sale. 2 for $7. So anytime that you're working on a vehicle, if you remember, put some cardboard down. It's going to save your floor. And plenty of rags. Let me get this inside here flushed out, because this is where all those extra parts were floating around in there. Well, I'll get the gasket, the old gasket, scraped off of here, because we got a new one. Surface is cleaned off. Just be careful when you're cleaning off gasket surfaces. You don't either rip them with your gasket scraper, or you have a grinding disc on the end here. This is a, I think it's a 3M lock pad on there that doesn't throw a lot of sparks, so you don't distort your gasket surface. I'll get that blown off of there, and I'll go start tearing into that hub assembly. I should have watched a YouTube video on this. I thought I saw one on there on doing this, but it looks pretty straightforward. There's a snap ring right on this inside here. And I've got a snap ring pliers. Press that out, pound the seal out. We're good to go. It came back. Parts out. You can see it's missing a few pieces inside there. And here's some of the pieces. Seal's out. Let me get this cleaned up and get things pressed back in. This is going together pretty good. Time to put the seal in. I've got a fancy tool for that. Bearing race seal driver set. So you've got all the different sizes. Match it up to fit and put a handle on it. And you're ready to smack it down. You can use a piece of plywood or a block of wood. Since I got it, I'm going to use this. And just make sure that you line it up and you don't damage it. The spring that you see on the inside, that goes towards the oil. Don't mess that up. Just get her set in there flush and you're good to go. Now to put the bearing in there, this is your part number for the bearing on this 855 John Deere. Keep everything clean, and you'll use that same press tool to give it a smack in there. One thing you need to be aware of that I didn't notice until I cleaned it up, there's an arrow right up there on the top. Right up there. But I'll put it back together the same way it came apart. Snap ring goes back in, and I'll line it up with the other snap ring opposite of what this little arrow is here. Not sure if it makes a difference, but that's how it came out of there. Snap rings in. Just make sure it's totally set into the groove there. You don't want that coming back out. So it looks like it's set in place there. Now I'm going to put a little grease down on that ball bearing in that seal area, just so it's not going to run dry until the oil gets down there, because I don't know if the oil is going to get all the way from, because the oil fills on the opposite side of the axle. There, it doesn't take much in there, but just a little bit of good quality clean grease. This is the seal surface that goes on the outside of the hub. I'm just going to take and put just a little bit of grease on this outside of the where the seal sits, just so that that seal is not running dry on top of there. So that just slides in here like this. Just like that. This inside, we'll put a little bit of grease on there too. So put a little bit of grease on here, put a little grease on the shaft, and set this down in there. And then you'll see the spline shaft coming through a little bit, and then one more snap ring. Make sure your snap ring is set in there. Snap ring is snapped in. And this is the other bearing. This one wasn't bad. I just took and cleaned this one up here a little bit. And I'll put a little bit of grease in there. What a surprise, we're out of grease. Luckily, I got some grease. And I'll put it in the Milwaukee grease gun. This is pretty handy. Little leery in using it sometimes because you can't feel how the grease is going into a zert like you can with a normal grease gun. So let's get this changed out. Pull this lever back. Pull the lever back. Unscrew the cartridge out of there. Slide the old one out. Red tacky grease. I use that quite a bit. That's my go-to, especially for wheel bearings and things, because it's got a 540 degree drip point. So it doesn't start breaking down any quicker. It's a little more pricey, but it sort of falls in the category you get what you pay for. Pop the cap off. Pull the pop top on the back side. And make sure that the pop top end, or this lip on the edge, that goes into this way into the cartridge here. Get that set. Put that back in. Screw this back together. Release the spring-loaded plunger. Push that in. And now that there's pressure on the inside here, that spring is pushing, there's probably air in there. So there's a button on the top here that you can push this button and a little bit of a grease out of there so that it primes itself. But I'm not going to waste that grease. It's going on the bearing. And I'll put just a little bit of grease on the gear. The next step is the gasket. Got the old one cleaned off, got a new gasket, And I'm going to put a little bit of gasket adhesive down on just this one surface, so if I ever have to take this out, which I don't think it'll have to, that thing has been on there for probably close to 30 years, and this is the first time I've been in there. But in another 30 years, if I got to get at it, this gasket will be just glued to one surface, and I can probably reuse the gasket. The last gasket on there was glued to both surfaces. Here's what I'm using for the gasket. It's a gasket maker. I don't need much on there. I just need a real light coat on that surface, and this is real light, real thin, so it's not going to distort anything. So I'll just put a real light coat on there, put my gasket on there. So I didn't realize that this will only go on there with the arrow pointing up, because the gasket only fits one way, so that whole pattern is not symmetrical all the way around. Gasket is on there. Well, let's bring that, a little bit of anti-seize over to the tractor, get this thing installed. Everything is super cleaned out, and let me get this popped on there. Just like that, it slides in there with the arrow up, and let me get some bolts in there. I took and I blew all these holes out of here to make sure that they're clean, and all the bolts that came out of there, we're going to put just a little bit of anti-seize on there, just so they don't seize in that housing at some point. Just a little bit. Time to tighten the bolts. Be real careful when you're using an impact tightening things up. This is a 3/8 impact, and that's still a lot of horsepower for those little bolts there. So just put it on there lightly. Just that easy. Changed out a seal and a bad bearing in the hub assembly on the 855. Now let me get some gear lube in there. There's this plug on here. I think this will take some oil in here to sort of fill up this hub assembly, but then the other side is where you do the big hole for filling it up. So let me get her filled up. I put just a little bit of gear lube in this top here, and what I use for gear lube, a synthetic gear lube, 75-140. Don't know if that's what the book says, but that's what I'm putting in there. It's an older unit. I think it can handle a little bit of thicker grease. Most of the work is done in the hot weather with this tractor. So now to finish filling her up, there's a dipstick right down here, and I got it marked with gear lube. I put stickers on here. Let me get some oil in there and check that, give her a test run, and we'll see where we're at. We're almost good to go. Just had to grease it before I put the wheel on there. Now, like I said, with these grease guns, you got to be real careful you don't over grease them, because what happens is this is a rubber seal right here, and in some cases over greasing is worse than under greasing, because if you blow the seal out, water and dirt can get inside of there. So be real careful when you're greasing, especially with these power grease guns here. Well, let me get the wheel on here. I got the zerts all greased. There's a couple more on the other side I got to get while I got her up here. Now, what I've got going on here is these holes seem like they're just wallered out a little bit. So what I did is I took this started life as a 7/16 stainless steel flat washer, and I took and put it in here and tightened it up. And then what that does, it tightens this hole up in here just a little bit so that it's not wallered out in there. So anyways, that's what these extra washers are for. Let me get this put on and take her for a test run around the block and check my lube. And we're ready to put her back to work. Now I've just got to get it off the jack stands. Thanks for sticking around. Take her for a spin around the block and clean up my mess. Oh, just a note, all the oily rags, do not store them in your garage. Get them out of your garage along with any oily cardboard. As it said, it could spontaneous combust, so get it out. Well, thanks for sticking around, watching me work on the 855 John Deere. Talk to you guys later. Thank you for watching Alan's Day. Life is about making choices. Some things are already perfect. Some things you may choose to upgrade. This channel will show you both. Please like, subscribe, and share. Thanks again.